Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. I don't think it should come to anyone as a surprise or shock to find that the NFL has now become the CUCFL. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, Cam Newton made a comment about women talking about routes as being humorous when asked about a particular play or route from a female journalist. And of course, the politically correct mobs and squads mobilized to quickly shame him into an apology. And as I was driving around, I had this thought the other day about how women have invaded sports. And again, maybe I'm a Johnny-come-lately to this, because it's been over the past several years. First, it was NFL. Now it's UFC. And these two, sports at one time were particularly male-dominated spaces. They were places where men could go to the bar, or men could have their get-togethers out in the garage, or wherever, and basically hang out with their friends and do something that more or less didn't include women, girlfriends, wives, or whatever. And I think that women evolved. Women became chameleons yet again, because several years ago there were all these jokes about how women would be in and out of the room during the football game or during the UFC match, and would do their best to try to garner attention from their husbands or their boyfriends. And it's happened the same way in the video game world, as has been talked about time and time again by many content contributors. Before, video games were relegated to the realm of the loser beta virgin. I mean, that's how they perceived guys who played video games. And for years, that was the narrative. And women quickly found out that, by getting on these Twitch live streams and showing a bit of flesh, that they could actually garner quite a bit of attention and money through the use of video games. They found some way to make video games serve them. They found some way to make video games relevant and a utility to them. Now, mind you, they don't care about the video games for the video game's sake. They're using it as a way to infiltrate. They're using it as a way to garner attention. And in many ways, like I mentioned, garner income. And in the same way, this is what the NFL has become. This is what sports in general have become. If you notice, there's quite a bit of pandering to this new consumer market from the NFL, be it the pink, for a month, or just the running of domestic abuse ads aimed at basically painting anybody who is male out to be a future or current woman abuser. But you have to give women credit where credit is due, because they realized they couldn't compete. They had nothing really to offer the majority of guys. And so they realized pretty quickly that they needed to evolve. They needed to change. And so rather than try to compete for the attention and the affection of the husband or boyfriend and take it away from the video games and from the sports, they have now placed that, they have now infiltrated those things and have become an integral part. They have woven themselves into the fabric of these things, because now that the genie's out of the bottle, it's not going to be put back in. I don't think that most women really have an interest in this stuff. I think what it is that they realized that they could use it as a marketing tool for themselves, or they could use it as a way of gaining attention, as a way of being, quote, one of the guys. Because we all know that women really, for the most part, can't stand one another. And they'd rather be in a room full of guys, garnering all the attention, garnering all the validation, than they would to be at their quilting bees or whatever it is that they were doing before. And in many ways, I've never been that huge into the NFL, but it certainly, as a result, has caused me to not want to interact or have anything to do with or support the NFL. Not really ever been a huge gamer. And I've not really ever been huge into UFC. But it definitely, the more that they pander to women, the less that I want to be associated with it. And Raging Golden Eagle has talked about this in his videos as well. how a lot of video games and video game franchises have taken a hit because of their pandering. Just like in the way that Marvel and the comic book sells, the movies are selling well because for the most part they're staying true to the source material, but the source material itself is changing to be an SJW PC panderfest, and as a result, people are voting with their wallets and showing their disdain for the changing and the trying to force certain ideas down their throat and the changing of their beloved characters. Now, I go from that to say this. I was asked a couple weeks back by a girl that I had briefly seen. I think we weren't even really in a relationship. We're kind of friends with benefits for 2 or 3 months. She's twice divorced and a single mother. And every once in a while, I'll hear from her. I don't really go out of my way to talk to her, but every once in a while she'll, check in and see how I'm doing. I try to limit my interaction with her as much as possible. But she asked the question, and I can only assume she was feeling this at the time, but she asked me if I ever felt lonely. And the truth is that, yeah, I used to feel lonely. There was a time, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, when I was still in college and worrying about meeting somebody and wanting to, because the college I went to, it was a Christian school, and you were kind of seen as a pariah, even though Paul has stated in the scriptures that it was better to stay single if you could. You were kind of viewed as a pariah if you made it out of the college, or even if you made it 2 years into the college and you weren't married yet. So I began to think something was wrong with me. And I began to worry that I would become Bill Dauterive. And if anybody's ever seen King of the Hill, you know who Bill Dauterive is. He had been married. His wife, Lenore, left him and just left him this emotional mess. And there were times then that I did feel lonely. But I only felt lonely because of the programming that I had been given ever since I was old enough to receive it. And the programming that tries to, make you think or tries to tell you that you're missing out on all these great things and all this stuff. But they never tell you how free that you really are to go and do whatever it is you want to do. They want to make you feel a gap. They want to make you feel like something's missing, and thus create that loneliness, because they don't ever want you to be awoke to the fact of how free you really are to now do and please as you like, to create and manifest whatever it is you want to in your life. Because the fact of the matter is that when you're in a relationship, you really are free to do as you're told. And being in a relationship with a woman anymore, all that you can expect is that you'll be expected to sacrifice. You'll be expected to sacrifice your time, finances, and oftentimes your own health to keep her happy. And it's kind of like somebody that gets a kidney transplant or a heart transplant or any kind of organ transplant. It's great. It saves their life. But for the rest of their days, they're having to take medication so that the body does not reject that organ, that newly transplanted organ. And in many ways, this is what a relationship with a woman is like. As long as you keep pouring time in, validation in, attention in, and resources in, you can maintain your relationship with a woman, with a girlfriend, with a wife. But when those things start to dry up, when your ability to do that becomes hampered or hindered for some reason, health, maybe loss of a job, loss of health, some tragic situation in your life, don't expect that woman to remember all those things that you did for her, all those sacrifices that you made for her, because she won't. And even if none of those things happen, it's entirely possible that maybe somebody just has a little bit more wealth, or maybe somebody just has a little bit more prestige, and you lose her anyway. So it's the return on investment. The best case scenario here is that you sacrifice your very essence to please somebody who's unpleasable and who at any minute may turn on you, who has no loyalty to you. And for what? A little bit of sex here and there that may or may not even be all that good, may or may not even be all that enthusiastic about. And we're told that that enough should be worth it. When in reality, it's not. When in reality, if they made prostitution legal, if they gave men more options as far as sexual outlets, nobody would even think about getting married. What would be the point? Because again, the return on investment here is, maybe on the off chance, maybe you find somebody that brings you a little bit of companionship, brings you a little bit of support. But from the people that I know and have talked to, from my own experiences, that's an illusion. That's not really the reality. And it's not something to be expected as the norm. Now, a little bit of a departure here. We talk about the freedom from so that you can be free to. And another hobby that I'm looking to get into, for years, I talked about wanting the time and wanting the financial ability to go on a hiking trip again, go on a camping trip again, because it was something that I used to do when I was able to do it. And up until this point, it's remained just a fantasy in my head. It's remained just something that I've thought about from time to time. But I always find some excuse. Oh, well, I gotta get this done on my days off, or I need to handle this, and then the reality of it is I've really got nothing holding me back. Again, it's that ability to be free to do as you like, free to do as you want, as opposed to being free to do as you're told. I don't have a girlfriend or anybody that's, I have to worry about entertaining on my days off, or spending money on, or taking out on a date, or whatever the case may be. So what I would like to do, there's a little national, well, I think it's a state park in the area, and before it gets too cold, I'd like to go out there and spend a night or two just in nature and really reconnect with myself, but also reconnect with my first love, which was nature. My grandfather, from the time that I was able to walk, would always take me out on the property, and we would go on little hikes, and he'd show me all the plants and things that you could eat, and just different things, skills and knowledge of value that most people don't possess nowadays, and have slowly whittled away and ebbed away by the wayside with the advent of technology. Not that technology is a bad thing, but these are all arts and things and crafts and bushcraft that has been lost as the years go by, and I'd like to continue my study of those things. Another thing is that I saw a pretty decently priced bow at Walmart, and something that I've always wanted to do is go hunting. I've never actually gone hunting. Done a lot of fishing, but never did a whole lot of hunting. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away before he could really, before I was really of age to go do that. So something else that I was really interested in doing was maybe putting some of my flint knapping skills to the test, and maybe just getting this cheap bow. And so I would like to plan a hunting trip, if not for this year or this season, maybe next season. Kind of get some of the knowledge on that I need. But my ultimate goal at some point, and I talk about them a lot on the program, so I know I have many goals, so I know I need to kind of consolidate and buckle down on the 2 or 3 that I really want to accomplish. But my ultimate goal, other than the hunting trip, I would like to go somewhere like the Appalachian Trail, or some of these other trails around the country that you can hike and spend maybe a week or so out on that, doing that. So guys, whatever it is that you want to do, don't let anything hold you back. Don't say you're too old, or you're too young, or you're too whatever. If it's something you want to do, make the arrangements to do it, plan it, and then go do it. Brothers, get out there and live your life, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the guy who's free to do as you're told.